Hello. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Great. I'm happy you guys are back. You guys were gone so long with your trip. I missed you.
Yes. For those who haven't listened to the last podcast, where did we go, Henry? You got to come up here and talk in the microphone. Where did we go?
Africa.
Yes. We went for 2 weeks. Did we see any lions?
We did.
What about elephants?
We did.
How many elephants do you think we seen?
Like 190.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did you learn any new words?
I learned a new language.
What'd you learn? Tell us your new language.
What's the language called?
Zulu.
And how do you say a word in Zulu?
Amunzi.
Oh, what word is that?
Water.
Water?
Do you know another Zulu word? What?
Yabongo.
What does that mean?
Thank you.
Oh.
Wow. How do you say leopard in Zulu?
Equid.
Okay, awesome. So for those of you who've been here a little while, y'all know that I don't have summer childcare. So Henry has been joining me on the podcast for a few weeks. But this might be his last week with us because he has a bunch of camps coming up. So
Oh, dang.
I know. But all right, you go back down there and we will be done in a few moments. So, all right, Nina. So today I'm excited.
Yes, we're talking about referrals. And referrals are huge. That's a huge part of any business, but especially real estate.
Yes, and it makes me sad because I see people just leave referrals up to chance, you know? They just
Right.
think, oh, such and such likes me. They'll mention my name.
Right.
And
Referrals don't happen to you. They happen because of you. You got to work for them a little bit.
correct. It is, people refer you because they like you, they know you, and they trust you. And that takes some effort. And so we believe in this topic so much that this is actually a 2-part podcast. We've never done that before.
Yeah, so I'm excited. We're going to pick up on it again next week too. So
Correct. There's just so much to unpack that we were like, let's take our time. Let's really go through this and let agents see ways that they can be getting referrals in their business and therefore change their income. Because your top agents in the United States or in the state of Florida, the one thing that they far exceed everyone else in is building relationships that lead to referrals.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so our podcast today, do you want to tell them how it was inspired?
Yes. So it was inspired partially from a stat that we saw and then from a book that we read. So the book that we both read was this 7 Levels of Communication by Michael Maher.
Yeah.
It was really, she read it first. She's like, you got to read it. So I immediately ordered one online and read it as well. And it's good. What's great about it is that it's even though it's like a nonfiction essentially, it reads like a fiction novel. So it's really short and easy to read, but I feel like it just got me really inspired. It had a lot of good information in it. Mm-hmm. But then also we heard this quote, or we saw this quote that close to 90% of clients say that they would use their agent again, but only 13% actually do.
So what a missed opportunity. If 90% of clients say that they like their agent during the process, that they had a good feelings, good vibes, good whatever you want to call it, but then only 13% of them actually use you when it comes time to selling the property or buying again or investing, then obviously there's a missed opportunity on the table.
Right. And they probably had somebody else friend of mine right and in their face basically when it came time to do that next deal that kind of essentially distracted them. So even though they liked you and they would work with you again, a lot of times people just do what's easiest and what's right in front of them. But if you would have been front of mind,
yeah, you could have gotten that for sure. And when we think of referrals, I think another thing that's troublesome is that we tend to look at referrals in 2 types of categories only. We look at the mom and dad, brother, sister, aunt category, which that's your family member. Of course, they're going to refer you. And then the next one is...
It's past clients, so people that you've worked with before. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I had to sit Henry down. If y'all are watching this on video, you can see all the stuff going on behind the scenes. If you're listening in the podcast and it feels like I'm in and out because I'm doing this with a 5-year-old. And I forgot any form of books today. And I try not to let him have a phone or anything like that. So here's another reason we're going to talk really deep and break referrals down into 2 parts. Because if done correctly, every closed buyer client is worth $120,000 in gross commissions income over the life of that client in referrals and repeat business. The problem is most agents stop at the close of the sale. the transactions done. But that's truly where the fun should begin in your business. So by creating tried and true systems and testing them out and implementing them into your everyday business, think of all the additional income you could be earning. But unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, many agents just leave referrals up to luck. And while that does happen from time to time, absolutely, there's that one, you see someone in the gym and then 3 weeks later they refer you out. That's just considered a bonus in your business. That wasn't true.
Right. But if you have systems in place where you're consistently working towards getting referrals, you'll see that they come. It feels like more organically, but it's because you're putting in that work ahead of time that they're just coming in more naturally because of that pre-work that you've already set it up with those systems.
Yeah, you're catching it before they could go anywhere else. So you're being intentional about seeking the referral very early on before they even know that they would refer you. You're putting in the back work to this. And the reason this is so important as well, like Nina mentioned earlier, only 13% of agents use their agents that they've used in the past. Also, 50% of the average agent's business comes from referrals. So this is another reason I would spend time developing a system.
Right, absolutely. It's worth at least 50% of your time if it's worth 50% of your business. So.
Right, and 50% of your money. So it's mind-blowing to me so many times when agents are just like, what are you talking about, a referral system? And so today we're going to cover two pools of people. And so whether you're a new agent and you don't even have your first deal yet, or if you've closed 80 deals, this podcast will be for you. And we've broken it down in that way because we know everyone's in a different season or a walk in their life.
Right, absolutely. But I mean, referrals are going to be a big part of your business at all stages. So I feel like this information is helpful for anybody.
Correct. So if you've been in the game a little bit, I want you to consider your past clients. If you haven't been in the game for a little bit and you have no clients, I want you to consider everyone, because everyone is fair game when it comes to building referrals, because all you're technically doing is building relationships where they like, know, and trust you, and they want to give your name out into rooms that you're not even sitting in. I always say they speak for you when your voice is somewhere else. They move mountains for you when you can't be present. They work for you when you're busy playing with your children. So referrals.
Right. And with that, you got to be consistent with it too. So you don't want to just try out a new referral system or program every month or so. You want to try and stick with it for, we'd say, at least 6 months if you can, 6 months or so, and really give it a chance to get some traction before you abandon it and try something else, because you want to try and stick with it and be consistent for a little while.
The worst thing you can do is overly tweak any system. I'm a tweaker by nature. I'll go in and tweak, and then I don't even have the original concept any longer, because what I've tweaked it to is so unrecognizable from the original thing I created. So I believe firmly in 6 months is what you should do in order to make sure that system works, and then sit down and evaluate what didn't go well, what went well, did it cost me too much money, was the return on investment there? So what we're trying to get you to is get in the mindset of thinking of referrals as a system, as a department within your business, because you're a 1099 employee, and that's essentially what you need to run your business as. So let's dive right in today. Let's look at how referrals can look for you.
Yes.
And now that we've done all that talking and hopefully convinced you, the first one we teach or encourage in our classes is to create campaigns. And I like the name campaigns because it makes it seem like something that should be done on repeat.
Right. Consistently. Like we were saying, not something that you just do on a one-off time, something that you do over either multiple times a year or consistently throughout the year, etc.
Correct. But when we dive into campaigns, I don't want you to get this confused with farming. Farming is people you don't know. They don't know your name. You're trying to get them to become familiar. You're trying to be the unfamiliar that moves into familiar with people. Whenever you're working with referrals, they at least already know your name, and you're trying to deepen the relationship with them. So you need, if you say, well, Stephanie, I got on that postcard website y'all told me to a few months ago, and I did the postcards in a neighborhood. That was farming. Right. We're talking about.
That's more so about like establishing and making the connection. The referrals is once you've at least had that initial connection. This is kind of almost that next step.
So when we talk about campaigns, the first one obviously is a mailing campaign, but you need to segment them. So let's use a holiday campaign, for example. You could choose your top 3 favorite holidays. And then what you would do first is go and collect every person you know on planet Earth that you would want to send these Christmas cards, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, whatever your top 3 holiday cards are, and you're going to send those every single year for the life of your business. Should I tell them that story I told you about the girl with the Christmas card?
Oh, please. Yeah. Oh, I love that story.
Yes. Nina was like, what? So I coached T-ball. This was before I was married, when I was single.
This was like back in the day for fun, I feel like. No.
You T-ball coached me.
Yes, Henry's telling me I T-ball coached him as well. But
even before Henry.
Yeah, before I was in my single days, but I wanted to still get back to my community. So I'm like, I'll coach T-ball. So I coached the little girl when she was 4. She started when she was 3.5, 4, 5, and 6, and then she moved up. And I might have coached 1 year of her, like next age group up. But ever since she was 4 years old, I have received a Christmas card from her parents. I do not live near them. I never see them. We like each other's stuff on Instagram every now and then. I mean, they're an amazing family. I wish I lived closer and had more of a relationship. But her mom, for 10 years, has sent me a Christmas card. And all I did was coach their little girl randomly 1 year in T-ball. Mm-hmm. And I think about that. I text her every year as soon as I get her card. You're my favorite card I receive. And it's because I seem like the unlikely candidate to receive the Christmas card all these years later. And the fact that she still thinks of me, I'm like, wow. So it has to be done. The first year you do this Christmas card campaign, people are like, okay, great. The second year, they're going to be like, all right, cool. The third year, they're going to be like, they're committed. And when people start to view you as committed, they start to feel like they can trust you.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's why consistency in any of these will help propel the trust that you're looking for.
Right. Because even after a few of these, it may seem like the first one's a little like random and kind of one off. But when you continue to do it consistently, it just builds that relationship over time.
One of my favorite campaigns is sports campaigns. And I want you to think of this a little differently. So it's very common for agents to get the like magnetics.
With like the schedule, like the game schedule and stuff. Yeah.
And send those out. Okay, cool. Whatever. I love those. And it's typically for football. But what if not only did you send out schedules for other sports, such as baseball or anything like that? If you're a wrestling fan like my brother, I told him, like, you should send out wrestling dates. Like wrestling's wildly popular, you know?
Is. No, absolutely. And I feel like it's getting more popular.
Yeah, not less. Like it's been around too. Like my mom watched in the 70s, you know? So
right, yeah.
So I was like, you should buck the system of the football. But I thought what it would be a really cool sports campaign is at the end of each season. So let's say you send the Gators schedule. Let's say you send the Atlanta Braves schedule. At the end of those seasons, maybe the NASCAR schedule, then you send out a postcard with your synopsis of the season. What you think went right, what you think went wrong. Like add a personal touch to something that you're already doing anyway by sending out the schedules.
Yeah, absolutely. Little rundown of the season. I feel like that's fun, and people would like that too, you know?
I think it would add to your personal brand, not only...
Absolutely.
You know, and it's that one step extra.
Yeah, and I like, especially if you're doing something that's like a local team, like if you're in Jacksonville doing the Jaguars, that's something that everyone kind of relates to, and it's good to show that you feel a part of the community.
Correct. Jumbo shrimp, baby. And Nina went to one recently. I went to one recently. Yeah. Yeah, Henry, he's under the table. He yelled he went to one. The next one we want to talk about when it comes to referrals is social media. And we preach social media and make sure you provide valuable content and you niche down in your content. We do all the things, yada, yada, yada. But that's not what we're talking about when it comes to referrals.
Right. It's more so like being supportive of other businesses and other people on social media, commenting on their stuff, sharing their stuff, having like commentary. If you see someone that you've worked with before or just someone in your sphere of influence that's, you know, posted about, you know, their kid graduating, putting a heartfelt congratulations or that they're going through a hard time and sending a, you know, a consolation or I'm getting tongue tied. Condolences? There it is.
I was really tongue tied. And we're talking sliding. We're talking about sliding into DMs with thoughtful commentary and sentences. And I'm nudging Henry under the table. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can tell. But we're talking about actually giving what you would want. So do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's what we want you to do with social media.
Right. And this would be the only one that I would say, like, maybe don't time block a time to be nice on social media. Maybe that's one that you just, if you just see that one, then just when you feel it, pull at your heartstrings to say something, something. Don't just like be like, all right, well, it's Monday at 8:30. I got to go be nice on Facebook. Like, that's not really what we're saying here. But we just mean in general, don't feel like you have to ignore these people when they, like, if you have them on social media as you can still reach out to them for their personal things and show that you care.
Because all this is building personal relationships. So what we're saying is, yes, post the valuable content, the niche content, but then I want you to go give the engagement you wish to receive. So if you want people to like, comment, share your stuff, if you want them sliding into your DMs, I want you to go give that wholeheartedly. When someone posts a picture of their dog and you just put a red heart, that's not what we're talking about. It needs to go a little bit deeper. Like, oh my gosh, I love the pictures of your dog. I used to have one when I was younger. Aren't they the best dogs? See how much deeper that is than just the red heart?
Right.
So basically,
and it gives them something to respond to.
Correct. And then you can start the conversation that would allow a referral.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is my favorite because I am such a social butterfly, but it's also the one the most overlooked because people don't do it intentionally.
Yes.
And which is human connection. Yes. So this needs to be just as intentional as the first two. Sometimes like I mentioned earlier, we run into a friend at the gym and then they refer you 3 weeks later and you're like, yeah, I did it. I got a referral. Mm-hmm. Well, no, that was just a bonus for a conversation you had. But people or agents who are at the top of their game, they're intentional about these human connections.
Right. I didn't intentionally go out to do this, but before I started working with Stephanie, I used to work at this bar out in Jack's Beach. So I used to bartend there for a long time. And out there's a lot of retirees that come there frequently. And we'd have the same people in, if not every day, at least multiple times a week. And I really built a relationship with them when I was working there. And I since came back in and had a drink at the bar and they were there, of course, which I didn't think that they would be there. I wasn't thinking about it. But when I saw them, I started talking about like what I do, what I work, they all were like, oh, well, I know real estate agents. And I was like, thank goodness I have like cards in my like purse. And that became such like a great networking moment for me. And I wasn't even I didn't go into Bonefish thinking, or I didn't go into that restaurant thinking like, oh, I'm going to go and try and network to my old bar regulars. But then it kind of just happened. And I was like, well, let me make this be an intentional moment instead of just like brushing them off. I like really invested myself in that conversation. And it was great because I already had those relationships. So now I was able to like,
great. And when you're in those moments, hopefully you can start to train your brain to flip to intentional. What might have started out as an unintentional run-in very quickly became intentional in that moment.
I immediately pushed my drink aside. I was like, okay, we're in work mode now, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you make this intentional? The first thing I want you to do is look for normal opportunities in your life right now. So you are going to time block for some intentional human connection. But the first thing before we get there, I want you to look at your life. For me, I have a great example. I get to church and I go in 10 minutes early. Church starts at 10:30. I get in there at 10:20. I go to my seat. I sit in like the same area. My church is really big, so 300 to 400 people. And I sit down and I just wait for the service to start. And one day I thought to myself, that is the craziest thing ever. I'm in the room with 300 to 400 probably most of them are nice because we are at church, you know, so potentially nice people. And I am not using this time wisely. Now, remember, referrals are not about marketing yourself. So it's not like I need to get up and walk around and be like, hey, call Social Southern Creative for all your marketing needs. No, what I need to do is use that 10 minutes to go build intentional conversation with people I don't see, but in the church house, you know?
Right, absolutely.
So over the last 2 months, I have been doing that.
Oh, and I think someone we were talking to, didn't they say that like 50% of their referrals came from church or something?
Yeah, one of a client that we worked with last year, 50% of her referrals came from church. So here I am getting there 10 minutes early and still not utilizing that valuable information from one of my past clients. Hold on one second. Henry's ruffling candy wrappers under the table. Okay. And so I have been utilizing that 10 minutes only for the last 2 months since it became an intentional part of my networking. And y'all, it is so incredible. Not only has it helped my business, it has just made me connect with people in a different area that I only see once a week at church.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like being a human being is all about like social connection and stuff. Like we all want like success and whatnot, but we're all on our deathbed saying like, oh, I wish I had more time with family. So like, I just love investing time in those human interactions. Even if everyone doesn't end up in a referral and end up making you money, you still got a little joy of those conversations. And you're not just sitting there alone at church now. You're having those like positive, happy interactions with people.
For sure. And so now that you've looked at the unintentional ways that you can turn intentional, what are your other options? The next one is what we do, and that is every month we get out the Chamber of Commerce calendar, the local Baker County calendar, because I live in McClenny. We get on the Facebook groups and we seek out opportunities that will allow us to build additional relationships. We go in with them, and I'm not going to go deep into this because we have a podcast on it, but we go into those environments and into those functions with the intention of making relationships. We don't go in just saying, hey, we're going to go hang out and sit there and see what people are wearing. And we go in with intentionality.
Right. Yeah. We don't usually just like, oh, we'll see what happens, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We go in. Are there a few things we attend and it's meant to just be relaxing? Absolutely. But those are not the times that we are trying to get referrals. Those are just times we're having good, fun sister time.
Yeah.
But when we know that it is our business, we go in with the intention of securing more additional relationships that we can build and grow. So the next one we're going to talk about when it comes to adding into your referral system is handwritten notes. So overlooked.
Yes, I know. I love a good handwritten note. I love getting mail in general, but
we got to give a lot of credit here to our man, Mr. Michael, as the 7 levels of communication book. He did an excellent chapter on handwritten notes in the book.
Right. Yeah. And he had some really good tips that we were like, there was one that I was just like, I would have definitely done that. And after reading the book, I totally understand why I shouldn't.
Yeah. Do you want to tell him what the one thing he says?
His tip was to not, when you're sending out these handwritten notes or thank you notes or just anything, to not do it on branded stationery because you're not trying to do a business deal at that time. You're just making the human connection. So just send it on regular stationery.
Yeah, I have just plain Target stationery that I send mine out on. The next thing he wants you to do when you send handwritten notes, and like I said, this is from his book, we can't take credit here, is he wants you to use blue ink because, listen, there's some real good printers out there. Mm-hmm. He wants people to see that it's original.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought that was important because I think some people in the digital age where digital is everything, they're a little taken back by a handwritten note.
Right. And also blue ink just stands out. So
I agree with that.
Bold choice. I like it.
I know. Henry and I are going to the store later today. I said, I've always bought black pens, but after reading this book, I'm like, I'm going to buy a pack of blue pens.
I've been like, I don't know. I'm kind of weirdly type A about certain stuff like that. And I was the kid that like at school, if I only had if someone was trying to lend me a blue pen, I'd keep asking for the black. Be like, no, I'll just go without.
I know, for sure. And now it's like, it's in, baby. Blue is in. So the next one he suggests is that you use the word you much more than the word I, because you are trying to build a relationship with them. So
right. And you don't want to be self-serving in the letter. I did this. I'm so happy about this. Talk about them. The letter's about, you know how you feel.
Yeah, for sure. And he says, if you're writing to give someone praise, so let's say you attended an event and you absolutely thought it was a wonderful event, or maybe you went to a restaurant and you really thought the service was great and it was a small owned business. And after you get back, you write a handwritten note to that business owner, that restaurant owner, and you said, your staff was incredible today. They served so well. Everything was hot and fresh. So you're making it about them, but you need to be specific about your praise, meaning it was hot, it was fresh. My order was on time. And I really enjoyed the experience in your establishment. Thank you so much.
Right. That sounds so much better than we had a nice time. Thank you. You have a lovely restaurant. When you're specific, it really like drives home and it makes it just feels better, I feel like the compliment feels more genuine because it couldn't have just been said by anybody. Like if someone could say what you're saying without actually being there, then you need to be more specific.
Correct. Another one like I've seen where there's a crying baby and the waitress is like over there trying to like give the baby to stop crying so the mom and dad can enjoy a pleasant meal. So you could write and say, the waitress was so attentive to my crying baby, trying to give my husband and I the opportunity to eat a quick bite of food.
That definitely deserves a handwritten note.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. Maybe 2.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe follow up with that. But okay. And then the last one that Mr. Michael in the book
this was another good tip is to always add a little like PS as like a little like one. It kind of drives. If you say, he says in the PS2 to add like a, hey, call me at this time, or like use that PS as a call to action to be like, hey, call me or reach out here or something like that. One, because the PS, it sticks out more. It doesn't just get lost in the middle of the bulk of the message. It's like down at the bottom. It's more attention grabbing, I guess.
For sure. And it humanizes it.
It does, yeah.
It makes it feel.
It doesn't sound as like formal when you're like, oh, by the way.
Yeah, a PS is like something you like leave to your mom and dad. So it
Sounds like less edited, you
correct,
know?
for sure. And so this is part one of our referral programs that we would suggest that you implement in your business. But the point we want to drive home about adding referrals in is it needs to become a part of your daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly routine.
Right.
When 50% of the average agent's business comes from referrals, you have to take life by the horns when it comes to your referral business. And the best thing about referrals, though, is it's a level playing field. The way I wrote it in our show notes was it's like MSRP pricing. I used to own a small business store and I sold Costa sunglasses. Well, so does Academy and Dick's Sporting Goods. But you know what? We all sold it for the same price because there was MAP pricing or MSRP pricing. It leveled the playing field for a small business like me to compete. Referrals are a level playing field for an agent, whether they started yesterday or they've been in the business 20 years. And I don't know, Nina, do you have anything you want to add to it? I know we covered a lot there, but I feel like, we got through it pretty quickly.
Yeah, we did great. I mean, I feel like we talked about, there's just so much more for like part 2, but I feel like we touched on a lot of the good.
Yes. And if you have any questions, slide into our DMs. We say that a lot, but we are actually creating a class right now. It's done. It's created. We're teaching it for the first time in July, and it's on systems, and it's about breaking your business down into 5 parts and running each one like a true system. Because you got to remember, over at Walmart or Best Buy or Target, they have systems, and the people.
There's that whole like division of labor too, and like they have different people working on the different systems.
Yeah, Helen in HR is doing things very different than Susan in sales.
Absolutely.
One of them's a hype man, one of them's the bearer of bad news sometimes. And so they have to run their business very differently, and you should be as well.
Right. And you're not going to have that same, unless you got a lot of assistants, you're going to have that same division of labor. You're going to have to be doing all of it, so you're going to have to divide your time. So you may have to set aside a few hours to like set up those systems, but then you'll need to, continue to maintain and enact those systems going forward.
Yes, for sure. So if you have any more questions or you want to know more about the systems, we also have a webinar coming up with it. And I am just so excited for that in our company. But I think that is it for today, Nina.
Yeah, I'm excited for part 2.
Yes. Did you have a good 4th of July?
I had a bit of a stressful one. My roommate's dog got out, but before I realized that the dog had gotten out, it was great. And he's been found now. So it was just like a stressful day, but it had a happy ending, and it was all good. And then my dog was afraid of fireworks. So honestly, I had a pretty chill night. I had a beach day, looked for the dog for a little while, found the dog, and then hung out at home with the dogs.
You want to tell them what we did for 4th of July?
You told me twice. What'd you do yesterday morning?
Fishing.
What'd you catch?
A bass.
Where did we go fishing at? What lake?
Kinsley.
Yeah. So we had I kind of like, I don't know. It's great because we were home and in bed by like 8 o'clock, but we still had a full fun day. So
no, absolutely. I was passing out early.
Yeah.
I was asleep before 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is my bedtime.
Whoa, man.
He was asleep before 8. He was asleep about 6:30 on the ride home. And I just was like, I kind of like it doing that way. I'm just not a night person, so that was good.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Especially after being it was so hot, at least here in Jacksonville yesterday. Being in the sun, being in that heat, it was nice to just like curl up in the AC, go to bed.
Yes. I need to say that. Bless you souls that work outside. I know most of our people that listen to this podcast are real estate agents. You're in and out of your car, but I'm talking about like true like construction workers, road service crews. I used to own a feed store, so the boys who worked out in the warehouse, like bless your hearts. Like they're built differently than the rest of us.
They are.
They're built of a different loin. Like they're so much tougher.
No, they are. Yeah, they 100%.
That can stand this Florida heat. Gosh, bless y'all. All right, y'all. Well, that is it for today. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope everyone has a great week. We'll talk to you next week.